Hi, you're listening to the She Speaks, We Hear podcast. This is a platform for British Muslim women to talk about the issues that matter to them. Muslim women have been identified as a hard-to-reach section of society. Our aim on this podcast is to get our voices heard. Hi and welcome to episode 13 of the She Speaks, We Hear podcast. I hope everyone's doing really well. Before we begin, do give us a follow on wherever you're listening to this on. I'm so happy to have today's guest on, as she's also a podcaster. Nafisa Rahimi is the voice behind Not Another Mum Pod, which is a podcast she started in the first lockdown, which was over 2 years ago now. Nafisa is co-founder and strategic leader of global online community Muslim Mamas, recently graduating from the Facebook Accelerator Program 2021 as the first jury vote winner representing Muslim Mamas, which I'll be asking her all about. She's a mum of 4, an aspiring entrepreneur and a self-confessed workaholic. Asalaam-alaikum, Nafisa, and welcome to the podcast.
Walaikum-asalaam, Sharmin. Thank you so much for having me on, and what a pleasure and an honor to be here. You and Akila, you've created such an amazing platform, amplifying so many important voices and experiences. So I'm honored and I applaud you and thank you.
Thank you so much for your kind words and for coming onto the podcast. So let's start with Muslim Mamas. What is it and how did it become the huge powerhouse that it is now?
Okay, before I tell you in terms of how it started, I'll just give you a little bit of a descriptor just to explain what it is. So it's an online safe space connecting and empowering Muslim mothers, and it's a global online community of now 250,000 people, and it's a media platform for Muslim mothers to be educated, uplifted, and given an authentic, raw voice to the underrepresented Muslim woman. And we do this by providing quality information, consultancy, networking, events, culturally sensitive content, and growth opportunities. So it started about in 2011. A young mum called Nargis Jahan Uddin, she was feeling very down, lonely, exhausted. And as you can imagine, as a first-time mama, the crazy, unknown realm of motherhood that you're overwhelmed with. She was most likely suffering from postnatal depression, though she didn't recognize it herself. And out of sheer frustration, she shared a photo of her sleeping baby's position with his bottom in the air and posted it on a hardly used Facebook wall. This then connected her to so many of her friends and family across the globe. People she hadn't spoken to in years, they all started to share their baby sleep patterns. And from that ensued a discussion, a conversation about parenting. And it was at that time that Nargis suddenly realized that, you know what, there isn't a safe space to bring all these mothers together to share our parenting experiences that's also sensitive to cultural and religious needs. And she realized there was a massive gap. And so, yeah, that's when she hit the create button and Muslim Mamas was born.
That's a lovely story, actually, because, things that do really well come from necessity, and they come from the needing something that is not there before. And I guess that's the beauty of social media. Love it or hate it, it has created opportunity and connected people across the world. I mean, I remember I used to go on, is it Mumsnet? Yeah, Mumsnet back in, 2008 or something, or 2005, whenever it started. And that was kind of the first mums kind of community. But absolutely, there was nothing for Muslim mothers. There's nothing there for them. So that's, I'm part of Muslim Mamas, have to say. I joined many, many, many years ago, and it's always very helpful and entertaining. So tell me some of the interesting things that have happened since you got involved with Muslim Mamas.
Yeah, I will do. And you know what? It was the bum that launched 1,000 mums, but although Mumsnet is there and everybody knows it, a lot of people associate us as being the Muslim Mumsnet or the Muslim Google now. It's evolved so much since when it started. A lot of people think, okay, it's all about parenting and it's all about, children. But actually, they would be surprised as soon as they join how it's not only about the one element of being a mother. It's about being a wife. It's about being a Muslim woman. It's about being a single parent. It's about so many other things. It's about mums who haven't given birth and they're trying to give birth, but they feel in their heart they're a mum, but they're just not physically able there's so many elements to Muslim mamas, and it's not as easy as it is by just looking at it and thinking, it's as simple as parenting. So when I joined Muslim mamas, it was back in 2012. I joined after I was a member for I think a year and a half. And then I got a call from the one of the admins. She called me and she said, we've got a situation where a mama is about to escape from a domestic violence situation, and it's a life and death situation. Her husband is coercing her to kill herself. And Nargis at the time, because we didn't have the Facebook anonymous tool, Nargis for a very long time was the manager of all the Anon posts. So she was the only mum in the know who knew who was posting on behalf of all these mothers. And this particular mother spent a series of posts, over a number of months across the year, where she was sharing snippets of her domestic abuse, and it was harrowing. It was like watching a horror movie, and we were all following it. And then to get a call to say that that particular mama has to leave because her then husband was coercing her to kill herself, it just meant that she might not live within a day or two. So we needed to get her out. And my father, who was a very well respected community leader in Birmingham, he was very well connected and had access to shelters in Birmingham. So that was the reason why this particular admin called me and said, "Can you help?" And that
Right.
really kick-started this whole crazy journey of Muslim mamas being moved into a different direction, where we've had to support her with a legal case, housing, funding, counseling. She had no recourse to public funds. Our mamas in our community fundraised for her to just give her that immediate access to, rent and food and clothing. I myself supported her in an intense way, physically, traveling back and forth, being with her, almost living her experience via the court case, listening to her, seeing the photographs of abuse. And it was a baptism of fire for both myself and Farina Alam at the time, who's another member. We were both novices. I think the admin team had a little bit more experience and they were supporting us through it. But both of us and Jasmine and a few other mamas from the community as well, we were just all doing whatever we can, hands on deck, trying to get her settled into a new life. And she is settled now, years on. She's in a completely different city. She's, with her children. It's not to say that things are easy and she doesn't have challenges. She still definitely does, but like every other mama, and not just as a domestic abuse survivor. And she's done phenomenally well with her children, and how she's trying to find herself, so to speak.
That is actually amazing. I had no idea that
Yeah.
you guys have helped people like that. And I guess recently or over the last few years, that's probably happened a lot more, and
Yeah.
you've been offering. So I've seen, people give numbers and places for shelter, because really accessing help is the hardest thing. Once you realize that you need help, you don't know who to turn to. So now that you've been through that experience, I guess more people have turned to you, have they, over the last few years for help?
I know you're a member of Muslim Mamas. If you just look back at Ramadan, I mean, just that holy month that we've just had, the sheer number of Anon posts that we got was just unprecedented. And it gave us, it made us all feel quite somber, to be honest, at a time where we should have been spiritually uplifted. We were witnessing, post after post of all these mothers who were turning to this safe space to look for support, to look for, validation, to look for some kind of empathy where they're going through real hard oppressions. And I'm not talking just about with marriage partners. We're talking about mother-in-laws. We're talking about daughter-in-laws, even toxic sibling relationships. Everything you can imagine has been poured into that group that month, and it felt really hard. And there's a reason why we work now at a scale that's at a national level, working with official government campaigns that help support our mamas in terms of signposting, in terms of providing them expert services where they can't, other than our online safe space, they have fully trained counselors on board. Recently, we were part of a sexual assault campaign where we decided that our mothers don't even know when they're being sexually assaulted by their husbands. Something as crucial as that, it's being justified by religion or by particular rights a husband has over a wife, and not being able to understand it or have the Islamic knowledge to be able to have a conversation with their husband and say, no, that's not okay, and just to be able to even define what that is. So, we are doing life-changing work on Muslim mamas as well as life-saving, and it's something that's quite unquantified. I don't think we even would know how to start with trying to track the data of trying to, measure our impact, and we can only go by whatever our mamas tell us and update us with, and they're doing that on a regular basis. One of the things you said, Charmaine, earlier was what has happened since I joined. So in 2018, Nargis asked me to be co-founder of Muslim Mamas so that we can start to think about it in a more strategic corporate entity in order to be able to sustain ourselves, to scale our growth, to scale our impact, because we knew that we were doing work that we couldn't do as we were for the last 8 years. We were doing that. And then about in 2018, when I joined on, we rebranded. We then went on to work in various capacities with charities, with brands, with government-led organizations, the National Health Trust, as well as local councils on campaigns we believed were relevant and beneficial to our online community. And then 2021 saw the launch of our website, muslimmamas.com. And then we started to bring my existing platforms as well under the Muslim Mamas umbrella, including a podcast and a couple of other groups I founded, including a education group, and rebranding some of the existing platforms. And we have 4 other brands that revolve around the mama life. So we have our allies in there, like our dads, and we've got the men, and particular spaces that do not compromise the sanctity and safety of the main Muslim Mamas group. And that's how we're now elevating the community into a greater global presence on and off Facebook.
I mean, it's actually fascinating because I'm sure many people don't know that the Facebook group has so many other. It's got tentacles everywhere in a good way. I mean,
Yeah.
so that's, and it just started off, like you said, from a picture of a baby. So that is, really inspirational. And I have to say, well done to you and the other women who've just made it into something so accessible and beneficial to the community. Going back to something you said earlier about your colleague who was, reading all these posts, because before Facebook didn't have the ability, like you said, to post anonymously. You had to send a message to the admins and then they would post it and say this is a anonymous post. So that must have been a big responsibility for her and for you guys before that function of group member anonymously posting. I mean, receiving all these posts and who they are. I mean, you don't know them really, but you know their names. I mean, and all the trauma that you guys are kind of just reading and reading it, that must have taken a toll.
Do you know, I will tell you this, and I speak on behalf of Nargis because I've seen her, I've witnessed her going through it. And yeah, we all now go through it in different ways, but she really had the burden of the Anon post because we tried to keep the sanctity and confidentiality of our mamas. So when they post, because of course they know all of us and they don't want us to know their personal stuff. So even then they had to, bite their tongue and just sort of grit their teeth and message Nargis with their personal problems. And then obviously there's a waiting list because one person cannot manage the sheer number of Anon posts coming through. So she had to create a system by which, she could deliver these Anons in a systematic way, in a way that they could receive the help that they need quite quickly. And then to be able, living through that kind of trauma as well, like living through their experiences. She wasn't sleeping at night. Nargis does have anxiety, and it just was, exacerbated to no degree. And I think that's an issue with our community. They don't know what actually goes on behind the scenes, even to just deliver an Anon post. And we have what I don't like to describe as the masjid mentality. So when you go to the mosque, so masjid is Arabic for mosque. When you go to the mosque and then people donate like a few pounds on Jummah Day, on the Friday holy day, and then they expect a 5-star hotel service. So they're just like, why is this like this? Why is that like that? And they won't offer to volunteer, and they don't understand that it's a volunteer space. So I think that also is true of our community, where a lot of people don't understand the backbone of what's happening at the back end. And Nargis did that for a long time by herself with the Anon posts, and it was a huge toll on her mental health. And I don't think people will ever know the extent and understand that, but she did have a great team as well. Like the admin team have been brilliant, and we've now got a huge a moderator team, and we're all supporting that. And Facebook obviously released the Anon tool, which now is 100 times better. It's so much, it's still quite heavy. We only have that in the main group, and we don't have a lot of moderators on the main group, again, to make sure that we have as little compromising of the confidential information that are being shared with us. So I think we only have about 3 moderators on there who will be in the know. So it's a huge responsibility, very taxing.
So every post has to be approved
We
by...
do, yeah.
Because you just have to spend about 5 minutes on there, and anybody who doesn't know the group will realize there are so many posts a day.
Yeah.
So you do need a team of people to kind of moderate that.
We absolutely do. And we don't always get it right. We try our best. And I think as long as people understand that we're sincere and we're trying our best, and, just to be patient with us as well. We're learning, we're developing all the time. And we are trying to provide a safe space. We are trying to provide a service. So, we do need hands on deck. So if anyone has skills to offer, volunteer services or skills to offer, we'd happily welcome them. And we are trying to build that kind of infrastructure right now.
So tell me about the whole Facebook Accelerator program. How did that come about?
The accelerator, when I hear that word, I don't know how I feel about it. There's just such a huge wave of emotion around it. Yeah, so I noticed a couple of years ago when Facebook first launched the Community Accelerator program, it did pop up on my research, and I don't know how I found it. But I remember bookmarking it and thinking we're not ready, and I just parked it. And then the founder of Muslimic Makers got in touch, I think one of the co-founders, she got in touch a year later, and she said, I think you'd be a really good fit for this, for Muslim mamas. And I was reminded again about it, and I had a brief discussion, but then I don't know, I just forgot about it. We were just so busy with our day-to-day. And then we had some issues with our Facebook page that our web team member was helping us with and trying to sort that out because she knew somebody senior at Meta. And that particular senior person said, look, the Facebook Accelerator the applications are going to end soon. Ask them to apply. I think they would be a good fit. So it came around again a third time. And I just thought, you know what, let's do it. So I asked my web team manager, if you can help me, identify the key points I need to make in the application, and then which he did, and then I fleshed that out into a bit more detail. And then that was the first round of interviews, I think. And then we got the email saying you made it to the second round, and then the second round was a lot more intense. It was like a dissertation, just constant writing and constant proving concept and so much. It was literally like a dissertation. And then you had to submit a video. I was mortified. Nobody in my team had even seen this video because I would not share it with anyone. I was like, no, I'm doing this, and submitted it. And then, praise be to God, I don't know how it happened, got through the final round, which was the final interview stage where you were speaking with the Meta senior team and having a live panel. And so just having that conversation, that interview, I remember she asked me, the very first question she said is, what makes you a good leader? And I remember being stumped. I was so stumped. I thought, what? I'm a leader? Like, what? I couldn't comprehend in that moment that this is what I was doing, that I was leading a community. Like, what on earth? I've never looked at myself that way. And
so what did you say?
I just said, I'm not sure how you want me to answer that question, but I'm going to answer it from what I want to look for in a leader. So what I think makes a good leader is what I expect from a leader is, I want them to be able to speak to anybody in the community and make them feel valuable. I want them to, it doesn't matter whether they're the highest person in society or the most lowest, however society wants to class them. I want to be able to speak to them as a friend, be able to connect with them on a one-to-one, and just be able to empathize and, be able to share that experience. And then whatever issue or whatever ask that these people have from wherever they're from, if I can help in any way and if I can support, whether it's through connections, whether it's through, just a listening ear or a shoulder to cry on, whatever it is, I want to be able to do that. And that for me makes what I think is a good leader. It was literally like,
that's a great answer.
I
Well
was
done.
stumped. I was thinking, oh my God, she's going to find out that I don't even consider myself as a leader.
So what was the actual, what's the prize at the end, like when you apply for this and you get through?
Okay, so just to even explain what they offer, it's like an intensive MBA style of training where they support leaders to harness the power of their communities and to turn our impactful ideas into action. So there's like 3 elements that Meta gives support to. So there's training and coaching in partnership with Founders Intelligence. Now, Founders Intelligence is part of Accenture now, and they're a entrepreneur-powered consulting firm where they work with leaders of global and major corporations like Unilever, Sky, ITV, BP, etc. And what they do is they identify and deliver ambitious growth. So you can imagine the honor and privilege that I felt at being provided this opportunity to be mentored by them. I was grinning, like literally the whole I won't say the full 8 months, the first 7 months of the program. I was just smiling every day. I just thought I had won everything in life because of the training and the opportunity and what I was learning. So they help you with that. They help you with how to lead your teams effectively, how to have access to new products that Meta is going to give and that will help us manage our communities more effectively. And the last element is funding. So they teach us the best practices that we can have within our community for income generations, how to structure our organizations in order to maximize the impact. And the theme for this year's accelerator was sustainability. So the whole thing was about how can you live, how can you sustain yourself in order to, and as you grow, how can you scale that living and that scale that growth and impact as well. So they give you an initial grant-based funding of $50,000 to further your community initiatives. And then a subset of these communities then go head to head and they win a share of $1 million, again, around about $30,000 each once it's shared across the winners. And this is funded by their other partner called Global Giving, one of the largest charities in the world, where they connect nonprofits, donors, and companies in nearly every country in the world. Yeah.
So has that stage happened, the last stage?
So just to give an idea, I'm going to say it and describe it in layman's terms because it's the best way I can explain it. When I watch Dragon's Den now and when I watch The Apprentice and you put them both together, that's what I went through for 8 months. Like literally, I know every feeling that they've gone through. I know every emotion that they're riding. So basically the apprentice journey is the first 7 months of the program. And then the Dragon's Den bit, when you're at the end of the panel on demo day or pitch, that's me on the 8th month. It's all happened now.
Wow.
So we had demo day. And then we had on demo day, we get to pitch in front of investors, partners, and funders, and we get to showcase what we do and then answer questions from the live floor and all of that. And then if you get through that round, which I did, again, praise be to God, I made 1 of 5. You then go into the final. So, you have the apprentice 5 interviews. So
oh my goodness.
Had that. So imagine we had people like Airbnb, senior person from Airbnb, John Lewis on the panel doing the, asking those questions and stuff. And then we got into the final 5 and then only 3 winners would be selected from that. 2 would be jury vote winners and 1 would be a peer vote. So the community, like all the people that got into the accelerator program, we get to vote. So just to even put it into context, okay, listen to these numbers super carefully. There are 360 million Facebook groups in the world. Out of thousands of applications, only 131 applicants got through to the accelerator program globally across 9 regions. 1 in 10 from the UK, and Muslim mamas. Imagine that. I'm a hijabi, I'm brown. I wear a headscarf. I'm visibly Muslim. I'm a woman. To have made it into the top 10 of the UK accelerator program, that's an honor in itself. But then to make it into 5 and then being the first jury vote winner, it was a stunning moment, Charmaine. Like, I can't tell you that moment.
You should be very proud of yourself. And I'm sure all the people at Muslim Mamas and everybody who knows about this, because I think people who go on the group, they probably don't know a lot about it. But you've done amazingly well. We're all really proud of you because, as you said, you've literally killed the competition across the world. I mean, it wasn't really competition in terms of Muslim Mamas, but in terms of it is literally a competition to get to the top, and you've done really well. And it is a lot of hard work that you've put in. It sounds amazing, really. Congratulations on winning that.
Thank you.
Let's talk about the podcast.
Sure.
So the podcast, it started before you even applied for the accelerator
Oh,
program.
yeah, way before. So podcast, it was in 2020. We had the pandemic in our lives, and that's when I just felt really stifled. I don't know. I was going through, I'm not really an anxious kind of a person. I normally take things as they are. But when lockdown just carried on and, you're in your own head half the time. And I just remember feeling the urge to think aloud. I just felt like, oh, nobody can hear me. I've got all these thoughts. And normally I use writing as a medium, but I don't know. At that point, I just felt quite alone. And I just felt like, I've got 4 children. From morning till evening, there were nappies, laundry, food, phone calls, meetings, tantrums, you can name it, And then it's like at nighttime, it's pause and then play, repeat. It was just like a hamster wheel. And, I like to compare it to podcasting to this. Like a common haven mothers have is a bathroom. So the only place where you can legitimately lock yourself in and take a breather from the kids. Well, podcasting is exactly like that for me. It started off that way when no one is banging on that door. And it just gave me the confidence to think about the kind of issues we want to talk about in our community. And initially, it did start off as a passion project, like a hobby that we're going to do. And I co-host this with Tasneem Abdul Rashid, who's an author, and she's a powerhouse of a woman in her own right. So we were just like in the evening, we thought, switch off everything, have some tea and snacks, and we'll have a conversation about topics that Muslims A don't like to talk about, and B, we always complain that the Western, or let's say the mainstream media, is always talking about us, which they are, in a negative portrayal. And somehow we have to, I know this, it's a big thing to claim the narrative, but let's claim the narrative, but also let's unpack the issues we have in our own community. It's not just the Western portrayal of us, it's us and our portrayal of ourselves, and how are we presenting ourselves out to the world. And when things do go wrong, what do we then do? What do we do? So I just thought, let's grab the mic, let's have this conversation in our own terms, in our own voices, and let's talk. Yeah, so we have had some heavy topics.
Yes, it's a great podcast. I've listened to a few episodes, and of course, the theme we had on this podcast. For anybody who wants to listen back to that, it was a great episode, and she is a very accomplished woman herself, mashallah.
Mashallah.
So some of the topics that I've heard on the podcast, and I talked about this with her as well. I think the ones that stick in my mind was my husband gay? That was
Yeah,
a really it was actually a very entertaining episode. The lady, she was so bubbly and
she was.
energetic, and it wasn't like a sad episode in
No.
that the obviously underlying theme was sad, but the way she spoke was actually quite light-hearted, and I found that episode really entertaining. How do you find your people? Is it through the Muslim Mamas group? And how do you approach somebody that you want to interview? Because they are, as you said, sensitive topics
Yeah.
a lot of the time.
So, just to give an example, obviously, before the accelerator, the podcast was something that I was doing on my own, investing in it on my own. And post accelerator, it's now part of the Muslim Mamas umbrella. So it's much easier for us to navigate the guests and finding and sourcing and also just promoting and all of that. But before then, it's really bizarre. We just used the people that we knew in order to find the topics that we wanted to encounter. So, Tasnim knew this person and she said, you know what? We've got this person who might be willing to talk about what she went through. So we would just literally go up to them and ask them. And you know what? It's unbelievable the number of women who are there who have stories to share and they want to talk and tell their truth. And they just don't have a platform always. And sometimes they don't know how the whole conversation is going to pan out. And one of the things that Taz and I always said that we will address serious topics, but in a very human way. It will be a natural conversation. It will be funny at times, and even though we're discussing very serious, it's almost like a paradox. Like, how can you even laugh in that episode when it's about such a heavy topic? But we're just humans, and we're having an honest conversation. The whole premise is to be honest. If you want to anonymize yourself, we do. Nadia's not Nadia. With some of our guests, we've even changed their voices. The polygamy episode that we
Wow.
had in the very first episode, that's not her voice, and that's not her name, but nobody's going to know that. We try to, similar to how Nargis was providing a safe sanctity for the Anon posts, we do the same thing on the podcast as well. And yeah, and now obviously we've got access to Muslim mamas completely. And when we look at some of the comments that some mamas contribute and their experiences, I do flag them in a folder and I say potential podcast topics. And now we've got the Muslim Mamas talk show as well, potential chat show topics. And then we will approach these mums and just ask them whether they'd be willing to share their story. And more often than not, they are.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many issues in all communities, but obviously we're in the Muslim community, so we're going to speak about those. And there are, our religion is complex in certain things. It's very straightforward in a lot of things, but the cultural baggage
Mhm.
we have from all the different countries that our parents and ancestors are from, it's a really wide range of wealth of cultures, you could say, and with that brings its own problems and obviously benefits as well. So we do have loads of things you could talk about. I'm sure you've flagged many in your inbox. What's coming up though on your podcast? Because I can't remember the last time I
Ye-
saw an episode
No,
or
this is the
heard
thing.
even an episode.
Yeah,
Sorry.
we're not really doing it very, we're not doing the podcast platform justice because normally with podcasts, as you know, Sharmeen, you have to have regular episodes. And I'll tell you something, we've only had like, I think 14 or 15 episodes across a year. And we've been growing. We have not lost any of our followers. We've not like. I just want to say thank you to our audience and our listeners because they've really stuck with us. And it's because of the crazy busy lives that we're leading. And this accelerator program obviously put a dent in it. But yeah, some of the topics that we do want to cover, I know we've done polygamy quite a lot. And some of the polygamy stories were not, the typical kind of polygamy story. And it's caused a lot of discussion. But we do want to cover other things like, plastic surgery in our community and especially in the Middle East, what's going on there. There's a massive issue about beauty and the present representation of beauty and the standards that even men are looking for in women. We've got the mother-in-law topic coming up. We are trying to speak to a mother-in-law who will be brave enough to come on and say, you know what, I am traditional. I do expect my daughter-in-law to do this. And we really want to talk to that mother-in-law and have that conversation. And then similarly to daughters-in-law as well. And then we do have another gay topic coming up only because it is a growing issue in our community in terms of young adults not knowing where to go when they're harboring thoughts that are, obviously conflicting with their religion and culture, and to give them what support can we give them. There's just so much work to be done in our community, and we don't have a very easy accessible service for young adults at the moment. So I think that these are just conversations we'll have, and hopefully it will inspire someone who's listening to do something and work together collaboratively.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I asked, because I'm looking forward to the next episode, because it is something different. And you, as you said, you don't hear these stories. And you're right when you said, you just asked the people you knew, because we know so many people, especially if we are kind of social and
Yeah.
have platforms like these, and we do meet a lot of people through them. So our networks are quite big. I can see why you would just in the first instance just
Yeah.
ask people between yourselves, but obviously long term you'll need like you have the Muslim Mamas platform, so that's going to be great. Look forward to that. And you've got your first Muslim Mamas event coming up as well, I understand.
Yes, we do. We've got. It's the very first time we've decided to have this event, and it's one of our accelerator initiatives actually to activate our community. And it's something our mamas have asked us for such a long time, and we've just not been able to do it or have the confidence to do something as big as this. And Muslim Mamas has now been running for 10 years. It's our 10-year anniversary. It's a celebration. We've won the accelerator program. There's so many wins, and we've not had a moment to celebrate even the mamas themselves, like just for them to have found a safe space and to have met all these wonderful souls online and not had the opportunity to maybe meet face to face. So we're just making sure that we're able to give them that opportunity, activating the community. And especially since the challenges of lockdown, mamas have been looking to connect in like more meaningful ways. And it will just enable them to bond more, connect more, and finally meet those virtual friendships. And they'll have hopefully a longer lasting sisterhood network.
Sounds like a
It's a
good
party.
night.
It's like a
But
Monday
yeah,
night.
no, no. Yeah, yeah, sounds like a good night out.
Yeah.
Where can people reach you, Nafisa, if they want to get in touch with either you or Muslim Mamas?
With me, I'm on Instagram. So Rahimi _ Nafisa. I'm on Instagram. And with Muslim Mamas, it's at Muslim Mamas on Instagram. We've also got a Facebook page. I think we've got about 130,000 followers on there. We're everywhere. We've got Twitter. We've got TikTok. We've got Snapchat.
No, thank you so much, Nafisa. You are truly inspiring. And what I think I've got from this episode is really for anybody who is a bit shy about applying for things, just do it, because you never know where you're going to end up. I mean, you are amazing and you have many talents that you're not aware of yourself. Maybe you've realized now that you are a very talented woman, but people don't realize this and don't understand the skills they have till they apply for things and are put through such difficult tests like you were. But you are very inspiring. So thank you for giving up your time to come and speak to me today.
Thank you, Charmaine, actually, for giving me the opportunity. And I'll tell you something else as well. This is the first time I've done an interview about Muslim mamas in a conversation format, and it's the first time we've spoken about the accelerator, and and all the things that have come with it. And I don't take any credit for it. I will be absolutely honest in that. I completely believe that everything comes from God, and He's just put me in this position that I've never ever expected. I mean, I was pulled, prodded, poked. I felt like stretched beyond my capacity. There were times where 2 days before the final interview stage, I wanted to pull out. It was literally like, I'm done. I can't do it. All of these things. But being on the accelerator has been transformative for me, and as personally, and not just as a strategic leader for mamas. And I would recommend everybody to do something that something that you're hesitant about. Just do it. It will help you grow, and it will scale whatever impact it is that you're trying to do, because every idea has to come from somewhere, and someone just needs a bit of courage and a bit of self-belief to do it. And yeah, I just feel really humbled by everything that's happened.
What a lovely chat that was. That was Nafisa Rahimi. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed this episode. All relevant links are in the show notes. If you liked what you heard, then please do rate and review on the podcast app that you're listening to this on. That will help others discover our podcast, and I would really, really love it if you could leave a good review. We've got lots of events coming up, including a Women in Leadership workshop, which is on Thursday, 30th of June. If you're listening to this after that date, then not to worry, as we have many other workshops coming up. You can just keep up to date with everything if you give us a follow on Twitter, Instagram or Facebook. You can also go to the website shespeakswehear.com and sign up to the newsletter. I'm Sharmeen Ziauddin. See you next time.